Hello, Ultimate Coach Facebook group. I'm joined today by Victoria. Hello, Victoria.
Hi, Angie. Hello, everyone.
And this is the first of what I hope is going to be once a week conversation in the build up to the Ultimate Coach experience in India. And the reason behind the conversations is I posted a long post which has had some amazing feedback about my experience going to London back in April and just everything that's happened since. And it occurred to me that so many of you have got these just incredible stories that come from attending the Ultimate Experience. So I've got some questions, and I'm really, really happy to say Victoria's going to be sharing some of her experiences today.
I'll do my best.
So my very first question is, how did you hear about the Ultimate Experience London?
I'm pretty sure I heard about it in the Ultimate Coach Facebook group, and it was in the early days. I think it was as Matt posted that he'd had a vision to do one in London. I'd not even contemplated going to the Arizona one. But I did stay up to hear a bit of it live um, on the streaming, and what I heard was like I found that quite phenomenal. And so when they said there was going to be one in London, I just and at that time, I think what had been created in the group, such an amazing environment for people to be themselves and totally open, and for that to be like fully okay. And what I was getting from that, um I just thought, wow, if they're doing an event in London and it's full of people like that, and like, what kind of environment is that going to be? It's just going to be whoever turns up, whoever's speaking, however they run it, that's just going to be amazing. So I knew I wanted to go, and that was before I even knew like Steve was going, or who any of the speakers were. Yeah.
So you were just all in right from day one.
Yeah.
I've the second question I've written down, I don't know if you can expand more on what you've just said, because you've spoken very much into that already, which is what you were hoping to get out of the day in London.
You know, I don't know if I was like wanting to get something specific from London. I just thought that, sorry, I just knew because of like how open and vulnerable and people were being in the group, and how safe it was to do that, and the knock-on effect that had, as inspiration for other people, as insights for yourself, that going to an event with people that were already sharing in that way, that were totally accepting of each other, I just knew that something would come from that, but I didn't have a specific um thing that I wanted to get from it, or um yeah. And as the numbers started growing, um I did have a little bit of like thinking around it, because what I thought was going to be quite an intimate, loving space, I then started thinking, oh, is it just going to be speakers? Are we just going to be sat there listening to them rather than kind of connecting? Um, and but obviously it wasn't that. Like, and I know it was like brief, but everyone got to connect to, and it was amazing, because like a lot of people who you knew really well from like the Facebook group, who you'd never actually met in person, you got to meet them for the first time too, and it was like coming together with a group of like friends, um which was just um an like an added bonus. And I brought Matt as well, my husband. That was really new for me, so he got to join in the experience too.
I'm curious, when you say you bring in Matt, did Matt raise his hand when Steve asked the question, who got dragged along by their partner?
I think yeah, he will have done. Definitely will have done, yeah.
Do you know what's really coming up for me with what you said? As I was in a different position, I'd only recently found the Ultimate Coach group, and the energy around the group, the Facebook group, was just incredible to me. So when I went down to London, I hadn't connected with anyone other than Robin, who I'd connected through with the bingo just the few days before. So I'm kind of really looking forward to what that's going to bring for me on the next level of going into that room where I'm meeting people who I've had Zoom conversations with and exchanges over the group just for the first time, and being in the presence. That just sounds like an added kind of element to the whole experience to me, because for me, even though we knew nobody, the energy in that room and just the vibration of everybody was just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And Matt got some of that too. He'd picked the handshake only option because he was like, oh, I don't know what this is going to be like, but he got swept away in the energy.
Yeah, it did seem incredibly open to the experience on that day. As one of my very, very first memories of the Ultimate Experience was at the Columbia on the Friday night, and yourself and Matt were actually, I think, the first people other than Julie and Graham that Matt and I introduced ourselves to. Matt being my partner, Matt, and
Yeah.
your partner, Matt, too.
Yeah, it was lovely. That was such like a brilliant idea of Julie and Graham's, because I think we got a little bit longer to get to know each other and everything, didn't we? And then obviously, like, you knew more people the day after going into it, and it was already building kind of the vibe for the whole day. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
that night in the Columbia, and I was sat with Julie and Graham. We were the first there, and just as everyone started to come in, and just the energy and it's just like a really hard to explain, but just a big bubble of warmth and happiness that began to just come around the whole group.
Yeah, I don't think the hotel's ever been that busy.
I did notice they had to pop out to the back and retrieve a few extra staff members. I don't think they were expecting to be descended on.
Uh, not to that extent, I don't think.
So, of your experience of the the actual day and being in the room, is there anything else that kind of comes to you around the whole feeling of the day? Anything that particularly landed with the speakers, or anything within those hours that you were within the room that really shifted or occurred to you?
Um, the whole day was amazing. One of the things that I did notice, like as soon as we entered, was just the detail of everything. Like it was sorted. There were people there to greet you. There were people there to sort the badges out. Like, and then like you went into the kind of the reception area, and um there were photographers there, and there were like all the way through. I think from the moment I stepped into the door, and still when I was sitting at my seat, you were talking to people, and meeting people, whether you knew them or you didn't, and um, and then the speakers, all the speeches were absolutely phenomenal. The team that put it together as well, it was great seeing them, because you I'm in the group, and then the London event, the Ultimate Experience London event group, you got like an inkling of the kind of um effort and the thought and the love that had gone into it. But I think that was just the tip of the iceberg, you know. So it was brilliant meeting them and being able to thank them, and seeing them get the recognition. And I didn't write notes while I was there, because I wanted to kind of um just kind of soak everything up, like all of it. But I wrote notes as soon as I could afterwards. Um, and there was so many like takeaways from the actual um the people speaking, but the biggest thing for me dawned on me like afterwards. But the whole day was like um was fantastic, and Matt enjoyed it as well. Matt obviously had a different experience to me, because it was something that I'd chosen to do. It was something he'd been invited to do. He had to read this massive book to get to do it. He was expecting to be sold to. So he was going down. I think his main goal in going down was to make sure that I didn't put my hand up to sign up to £200,000 worth of coaching. Because I think in his head he was like, yeah, this is the whole reason for it, and they're gonna get us like really hyped up, and then like try and sell us things. So he was blown away, because I think throughout the day, and when was it Brian from Dad's house?
Billy.
Billy, that was it. S- when he got up and shared as well, and it started to dawn on him that no one was making money from this,
Mm.
and that actually this was all just being given. And um and I think before that he'd been listening, but with half an ear.
Mm.
And after that he just relaxed a little bit, and he started listening fully, and I think he appreciated it a whole lot more. And um I mean, Amy completely blew him away. He came away and he said, like, she should be in the UN, and representing the whole world with like um what she was saying and how she was sharing. Um and so he got a lot more than he was ever expecting. Um, and similarly, I thought the day was amazing and came away with like loads of fantastic nuggets, but it was really kind of when I came home and when it sank in um that it really hit me.
Mm. I want to talk more into kind of the follow up and what's happened since, and because that's where I think for me certainly was where the real impact was. But when we were just having our brief earlier before we started to record, you mentioned to me how you were really kind of shifted on that day through the essence of who Steve is. I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's funny because even though there was so many takeaways, so many like snippets that I'd written down, and so many things I enjoyed. And like the day after, um I don't even think it was the day after because we were traveling, but like the Sunday when we were just at home and we had no plans. The thing that I was kind of um drawn to thinking about wasn't anything that I'd got from it. It was things um that I wasn't expecting. So it was a phenomenal day, and everyone was like welcoming and loving, and you've mentioned the energy in the room was amazing. And yet there were like 2 or 3 times when I'd be speaking to someone and I'd feel really uncomfortable. Um, and so rather than think about all the amazing things that I'd got from the event, I was like, well, what was going on there? Like, what did I see in these people that made me feel uncomfortable? Because um, and the things that were coming up were um, they were confident, they were purposeful. You know, they kind of they had this aura about them that they knew what they were doing, knew where they were going and what they were doing, and like how to do it. Um, and when I saw that, I realized that, oh, it wasn't anything in them. Like, it wasn't them that made me feel uncomfortable. It was the things they represented, um, that I saw as lacking in me. So the uncomfortableness was with me, and more specifically with my judgment of me. And in that moment, I kind of I saw the whole day because every time um Steve's Steve spoke about how you can upgrade your seats, didn't he? He said if you want VIP seats, like stop judging. And I've heard him say that a lot, and and I get it, but I'd always got it on the level of don't sit there judging me, and I'd be sat there thinking I'm not judging you, I think this is amazing, you know. So he'd be saying don't judge, don't criticize, and I'd be like, oh, he's talking to all the people that are sat there thinking this is going to be rubbish, you know, like he's not talking to me. um but in that moment, I was like, ah, it means judging me too, you
Wow.
know. And I just saw that, all of it, like in that moment, all the speeches that they delivered, um, just seemed absolute. It didn't matter what the words were, you know. It absolutely didn't matter what the words were because what they were trying to to me in that moment, it just seemed that what they were trying to get through to us is that we walk around with this voice of judgment, comparison, criticism, and we're living our lives through that. And in that moment, it just struck me that, oh my God, that's why they're phenomenal,
Mm.
because they're not living their life through that judgment, through that criticism. Like, so at the time, it completely looked like they just didn't have that. You know, they were just being, they were just saying whatever they were inspired to be and say, because they didn't have a filter of judgment and comparison and criticism to stop them from doing that.
Mm.
And it was just like, ah, I felt okay exactly as I am.
There's a power, a real power of being in the presence of people who have stripped that, all of the judgments and the outer layers away. And I'm sure that part of the power of these events is being in the presence. So many people who have stripped that away. It's powerful being in the presence of one person that's stripped away those outer layers of self-judgment, and to be in the presence of one person that's just living into the actual essence of who they really are underneath. But to be in a room where there are so many people that have connected to who they really are, you know, that's power.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I saw as well that you know, like, I might have had Steve and Alan and Amy on these pedestals of like how amazing they were, and but in that moment I was like, ah, like they've just whether it's no like whether they don't have any judgment or criticism at all, or whether it's so tiny that they just don't pay it any attention, or whether they're just so attuned to noticing it and ignoring it, um, and being in their essence. Whichever one it was of those, I was just like, oh, like they're just more used to it than I am. You know, being in their essence, and suddenly it went from like somewhere I had to get to I'm already here.
Mm.
You know, I'm already here and I can live my life doing what I'm inspired to do. And um it just from that moment, like my life shifted. So it wasn't about what was happening um in my job at the time, or the circumstances around me. It it became more about like what would I love to do, and then noticing the voice, like the um that like voice or thought or criticism or judgment or comparison that was stopping me. um and that's it. It like so anything became possible.
Mm. Yeah, it's that Steve and the speakers really showed us that what alive and awake in them, we have that too. It's nothing we have to reach. It isn't something we have to try and find or get or work into. We are that already. And it was almost like a padlock being opened on that day for so many of us. Who do you become when that unlocks? And the months that followed and the transformation And I'm still living very much through that, and I know so many of us are. So I know that Eric is kind of very respectful of not sharing kind of our own what we're building through our work practices, but to just kind of where have you come from that day? Where are you going on your journey?
So at the time, I was full-time employed. I was running an out of school club. I was in the job because there was no one else to do it. The manager was leaving, and no one wanted to take over, and the club would have had to close. And I'd like chaired governors at schools, and I knew the legislation, and I knew how to um, kind of make sure that was being implemented in practice. So I was like, well, I could do it, I can do it, to stop it closing. I'm kind of willing to step up into that, but it wasn't something I wanted. It wasn't something I chose, and it didn't fit with my life and my family life. And I think at the time I'd said, "Well, I can do the monitoring of it, but I can't like be there all the time, because like it's when my girls are home, and it's not what I want." But then s- sadly, someone, one of the ladies passed away, and I ended up kind of filling her space too. And there was just so much work, and it was so overwhelming. And a lot of it I didn't know how to do. Um, and I felt kind of I was being someone who was trapped, someone who was in over their head, someone who didn't know what to do next, so was procrastinating. Um, and um, I think from that moment, and realizing that I could do or have what I wanted, and what um so in the past I'd coached, but only kind of here and there. I wasn't sure I was like good at it or anything. Um, and all of a sudden that became a it, like it's what I wanted to do, and it like the thinking I'd had around it before, and who I was being before, I saw I didn't have to be that. I could be how I wanted to be. I could create that however I wanted to be. But I was still very much in this role, and suddenly it became about, okay, what do I need to do to get this into the best possible place, to hand it over to someone, and to train someone up to do that. And and yeah, and so my guiding questions through the day were no longer about, it wasn't about, oh my god, I don't know where to start, what should I do first. It was like, right, what do I want it to look like? Who do I need to be to make that happen? And I went from feeling overwhelmed and stuck to um to opening a second club, to uh, securing two streams of like funding for it. I think in 7 months they'd the profits had increased like 10 times over what the previous year was. I'd I'd taken on more staff in an area which nationally is struggling to recruit people. Um, I'd for one of the funding streams, I had to phone round um, like local schools, and for me, even like jumping on the phone and even arranging appointments, I feel I used to feel really uncomfortable, like I was like just calling someone out of the blue and putting them out of the way. And so for me to call up ask for something, I just saw as cold calling, and I think like I did up to almost like 20 of those calls to fill all the funded places and everything. So it was just like doing things that I previously thought I couldn't do, or things I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to open a second club. We had a deadline of September. Didn't know if I'd hit it. We didn't have enough staff. I didn't know if I'd get enough staff, but I was just guided by, well, all the time, what do I want it to look like? Who do I need to be? And what do I need to do next? And any doubts that came up in that, um, I just saw as not true. Not necessarily not true. They may have felt true, but that I knew I knew there was another way to see it, another way to be, and that I didn't have to take them seriously.
Oh, I love that. And we're on a similar journey through Ankush's school, and in that time and in those few months since I met you in London, I've just seen you absolutely soar. I've seen you just really take hold of things and just step into who you're actually wanting to be, and going from what was your default to your created life, and just taking that power of who you are. And just, I want to give you huge acknowledgement for who I've seen you being over the last few months, because you've just absolutely soared.
It feels completely different. And I got to hand that over at the end of October, and I felt like I'd done absolutely everything and beyond. And I saw as well kind of the power of commitment, and that was like commitment in something that I'd not chosen, and that I hadn't been called to do. I'd stepped into it because I felt, if I didn't, like no one would. And um and yeah, that's like really exciting to see what was achieved there, and like how I can take that and um and apply that um to building the life that I want. Yeah. So just like a complete U-turn in focus, really.
And it's just so, unless you've experienced it, it's just so difficult to kind of comprehend the internal transformation that can come just from being in that energy, in that day, in the ultimate experiences. It's just, it has to be experienced to be believed.
Yeah. It, it's like I've lived my whole life with this like mirror around me,
Mm.
and like the mirror just like being all the judgments and like criticisms and comparisons, like reflecting back what's possible. So my idea of what's possible has just been a reflection of all like my judgments and comparisons and thinking about me, and and now it's like that. That's not a mirror anymore. It's not like shining through me. It's as though it's like, I don't know, just a screen, and they're on there, but I can just cut like a hole through them, and like beyond them, there's just this massive like um world of possibility,
It's
you
just,
know, that just wasn't even seen before.
so I what I really, really want to do is just give thanks to Ranjan for who he's being within building the India experience, and just creating an amazing opportunity for yet more people to go and experience what we've experienced, because it's just such a precious gift to have that opportunity to be able to go. So with one final question, what would you tell anyone that's wondering whether they should go to India or hasn't quite made their mind up?
I would say do everything you can to make sure that you're there. You will see something different. You will not be the same afterwards.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that. We did not walk out of that room the same person as we walked in as, and that is just a gift that should be there for everyone. That I would love to think that more people, that at least one person listening to us today will think, I want that too, because it was the most incredible gift I ever received.
Yeah, definitely. And
With
hopefully I'll see you there.
I can't wait to see you there. I can't wait to see everyone there. I can't wait for that experience that you've had that I haven't, of walking into the room and just being in a room with people who I've known through the page. It's just, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be in India. And just a huge, huge thanks to everyone that's making this happen, to Steve and to the team and all of the speakers and just everyone, because it's going to be incredible and I cannot wait.
Yeah. And all the people that kind of were inspired to create the London event and the Arizona event, and just can you see the snowball like
And it just continues.
just
And just
getting bigger? Yeah.
massive gratitude to everyone that made that happen and who is making the India happen. Thank you. I'm going to cut